career has gone from working in laboratories, doing epidemiology, various diseases of animals transmitted to people, working with food protection. I was able to have a career in research, career in teaching, and a career in public service. I've actually been fortunate to go into the field of animal behavior where I could use my knowledge from Denver, where I was director of the animal shelter and the animal control program, and I was actually one of the founders of the Delta Society, which promotes the human-animal bond. The last 30 years of my career, I've been primarily in animal behavior because it tied in with the program we started here at the University of Minnesota, the Center to Study Human-Animal Relationships and Environments. Was honored by the University of Minnesota School of Public Health and College of Veterinary Medicine with a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Public health, kind of a gadfly role over many years. I started out a career in the state health department. From there, the Kennedy Institute and the Society for Crippled Children, which is now Curtin Center. And from there, I went to the School of Public Health. And I spent 25 years in the School of Public Health at Capitol.
I got into public health from general medicine at the time that there was a need for my services in public health. The state health department had offices scattered around the state. My duties as the director of public health for St. Louis County was to coordinate the activity of the county health department with its offices in 5-6 different communities.
I've worked in the field of public health in the state of Minnesota since the late 60s, which is also when I became a member of the Minnesota Public Health Association. My academic training was in the field of public health, health education. I've worked with local health agencies in the states of Michigan, Massachusetts, and Minnesota, St. Louis County.
First, I was a health officer in some smaller communities, St. Louis Park, Richfield, and Bloomington. And then I went to the state planning agency as the director of a federal program called Health Planning. And then I went to the state health department as assistant commissioner after a review by a citizen panel and recommended that such an assistant commissioner position be established, and that was in 1973.
County health officer, director of county health department. A lot of what I did in public health was not my great design, but things that happened that I made the most of.
MPHA was an interesting organization back then because it was considered a professional organization by the people who were members. And it was also an organization that grew out of the requirements by state law for a statewide sanitary conference. Once a year, the Department of Health, State Department of Health, was supposed to call together all health officers in the state and have a conference. My job right away at the Department of Health, one of my duties was to work with the Minnesota Public Health Association and organize their annual meetings and run it from stem to stern. MPHA wasn't always thinking futuristically. I pushed very hard to be out there thinking futuristically. What were some of the new issues that were coming out of the woodwork that public health needed to be aware of on a preventive basis? I think change was in the wind for everything back in the 60s. If those of us who were in that period, we couldn't help but get caught up in it ourselves. change in the whole country. And the violence that went along with the Vietnam War protests and so on just exacerbated that. Made it very, very clear to everybody that, as Bob Dylan would say, the times they are changing. I could see the weakness of the organization. They had all this professional power, but they weren't using it. They weren't the voice to the public the way they could be. They could be out there prominent on major issues and pushing legislation that affected the public health. We didn't have to wait for the state health department to do it.
I served as a member of the Revitalization Committee in the late 1960s. It was a committee that was really constructed from the grassroots up to take a look at the nature of MPHA at that time and to suggest recommendations for changes in structure, changes in content, and changes in governance that would helpfully strengthen the association over time and continue its ability to be relevant to emerging public health needs. There was something of a difference of opinion between those of us who were younger then at the time and some of the established leadership of MPHA, which thought maybe this was just an activity of some young Turks that would pass. It didn't pass. It fundamentally changed MPHA and made it an organization that was a vital part of not only public health policy, which it had been weak in, but public health delivery throughout the state.
And our first push outside of that with advocacy was really the minor consent law, which became a very, very strong and powerful advocacy issue, thanks to Arvid Hoagland, who was at that time health officer in Duluth, who alerted us to the issue, and MPHA took it on. We took it on right away and gathered together people from all over the metro area, particularly who were serving young people, and we planned it and wrote the law and took it over and got backing in the legislature and took it right through to completion. We tried in 68, 69, and we failed. But we went back in 71 and got it through. And it's been on the books ever since.
I think MPHA was largely collegiality, an association with like-minded people, which lends itself to inspiration and support.
Found that we had a lot in common, and I started to work to support the Minnesota Public Health Association and made many friends and colleagues who were doing great things in public health. And the Minnesota Public Health Association provided the leadership.
This gives the people in the field a chance to get together, realize that they're not alone, that there are people having similar problems to theirs.
I think it was a very vibrant organization. People were interested. It was an opportunity to share with other people in public health what they were doing and try to put it together into learning from each other.
When public health first began, there were only 3 or 4 professions or disciplines within the field of public health. But as time went on and the field expanded dramatically, there's hardly a profession you can't find in public health anymore. And the problems that we deal with today are every bit as diverse and as complex as the disciplines that are managing them.
The nice thing about the Minnesota Public Health Association, it takes professionals from diverse disciplines. The association provided a place for us all to get together and work on a common objective, improving the health of the public. And that was why I thought the Minnesota Public Health Association has had a tremendous influence on the health of the people of Minnesota.
Anytime I'd go to the national meetings and we'd give our little pitches and say, I'd say, well, you know, in Minnesota we do so and we can do so, and practically unanimously they'd look at me like, well, yes, of course in Minnesota you can do that, but you can't do that where I come from, you know? And it was really true. We had a cooperative public here, we had cooperative professions,
Good health officers,
and yeah, we could do things.
good legislators.
Yeah.
Minnesota's reputation as a state that has integrity, honesty, a clean political process, argue intently, differences of opinion, come together on resolution. A state that is progressive as opposed to one turning back. I think that made it possible for some of the developments in the field of public health and other fields. I think the capacity for voluntary organizations such as MPHA to construct honestly impressive coalitions that work together, public agencies, private agencies, businesses, citizens groups.
And I think that health prevention, health promotion, and health care have all developed very positively here.
Always keep in mind, if you're working in public health, your allegiance is to the masses. Your allegiance is not to your profession first. One of the things that we probably often neglect sometimes in public health and get so involved in our issues and problems, we forget that we need to communicate better with the public. And the annual meeting gives us an opportunity to contact the press and feed them information that's coming out and gives cutting edge kinds of views that the public needs to understand.
Most people don't know public health exists, that there are people working in public health, that there's a public health department, there's people intervening in their illnesses and so forth.
And frankly, if we can fault public health for anything, it's probably we haven't done as good a job as we should in terms of bringing the public in general into what we're doing.
Correct.
That's why they don't know about it. People who are in the field now are making history. They are history in the making. And that's where it's at.